From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen and proudly welcoming you to this Tuesday's edition of For the People. It's July the 11th, and I'd first like to welcome a brand new radio station, actually two of them. So the first one, KOHI in Columbia County in Helena, Oregon, say that real quickly. Great bunch of folks in Oregon country in Columbia County. So if you're listening on KOHI, looking forward to spending some time with you each day right here on the dial. I hope you like the program. We try to dish up a good dose of daily common sense along with the headlines. We mix it up a little bit from a conservative point of view, so that's where we're coming from. Come from an evangelical background. Don't try to get really preachy, but, depending on some of the subject matter, occasionally it will happen. But I don't try to do it. I just get passionate. So you have to give me a little rope, depending on what it is. And if I hang myself, that's up to me. But anyway, great to be there with you on your dial, KOHI. And KLID in Poplar Bluff is another one that just signed on yesterday on 1340 in Missouri. Thank you so much for carrying the broadcast. I'm going to give you the same exact thing we're giving KOHI, common sense. And we think that we're pretty spot on most of the time, but we do like to hear from you, and you can sound off on anything on social media, on email, on our website at forthepeopleshow.com. It's your program, and there's a long heritage of this broadcast. Maybe you've heard of the brand For the People. It was hosted by the number 2 most listened to guy in America, Chuck Harder, up into the 90s, and Chuck suffered some health problems. We launched the broadcast a little over 2 years ago together, and Chuck suffered a heart attack and some other health issues. So we continued the broadcast. And to our amazement, more radio stations jumped on board, and people started writing in and supporting us. And, when you have a good thing, good things happen. But there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, lots of love that goes into it as well. But we think that you're worth it. And with the consortium of talk shows on the dial, and it seems like, and I was talking to a program director just yesterday, that it seems like they're a dime a dozen, but a lot of people, they copycat what other people are doing or what other people are saying. And the good thing is that we don't copy anybody. We just have, our own brand and our own style of doing things. And it comes out natural, and people seem to really like it, and that's why we had to expand the broadcast to another hour. Some markets carry an hour, some carry 2 hours, but whether your station carries an hour or two, I say if you've missed an hour, you've missed a lot. Christie, you know who he is. He ran for president. He's the governor, and he's in a really leftist state. I mean, these people are not liking the whole Beachgate deal. They didn't like Bridgegate. They don't like the Beachgate. And now Christie is trying to look past his governorship to find out, what can he do? He ran for president, didn't happen. Things are just looking, not very favorable in the radio business. Well, after his audition, this is what this is. You got to listen into it. This is Christie trying to field a call from Montclair, of all places.
Governor, next time you want to sit on a beach that is closed to the entire world except you, you put your fat in a car and go to one that's open to all your constituents.
I love getting calls from communists in Montclair.
You're a bully, Governor, and I don't like bullies.
You're swearing on the air, Mike. You're a bum.
All right. It seemed like a very callous thing that Christie did. I don't know why he doesn't know that the optics paint a really bad portrait when the state can't even maintain beaches or personnel on the beach, how that could go up. You know what I'm going to say. People's spots, they don't like it. It doesn't look good. And rather than just saying, I apologize, or even in addressing it, he just ignores it. And his ratings are dismal. They're deplorable. They really are. And if he's going to be a talk show host, he's going to have to be able to address it head on. There's shock jocks that just like to blast people if they don't agree with them. And to me, that's not my kind of radio. I do think that there's a lunacy out there, and I do address it from the left. But calling somebody a communist because you mentioned the Beachgate deal, I don't think that's really good radio for you. And I think it is a little thuggish. So Christie may have to rethink the way he addresses callers and hanging up on them. And that, to me, annoys me. People do that. They hang up on them. And if somebody's swearing, somebody's irate, which the guy did swear. So that could get annoying. You're not supposed to do that. And, thank God, we have equipment that we can beep people out. And if we have guests and things like that, we can do that here at our studios. But come on, Christie. Anybody from the left or from the right, you got to think about how this thing, you being in the limelight, and that's what you are, in a fishbowl, and not to think that one person was going to be able to see you with your family on that beach when they couldn't be on the beach, and they wanted to be on that beach, but because of lack of funding, you're there sprawled out. What was there, like 10 people there or so, and Christie all sprawled out, and then when the media confronted him, he said, I wasn't getting any raise. And then he later on retracted it, says, I had a big hat on, so that kind of covered most of my body. I mean, you're on the beach, you're relaxing, you're enjoying yourself. I mean, I could see the governor's mansion being on there, I could see his point, but the optics excel, just what it looks like, the appearance, and especially because of Bridgegate, and especially because of his numbers being the way that they are, unless he just simply just doesn't care. And he has that brashness. He's got that brashness, that AAA personality. And I thought didn't he have a stomach thing going on where it's, where they go into your stomach and they kind of shut it down, so to speak, where just a little nutrition gets in there. They staple it, but I guess it's not working out. I mean, the guy looks like bigger than before he was running for president. Poor guy. I don't know, a lot of people struggle from weight, but I mean, if you're going to get the surgery, I mean, let it work unless he got the staple put out. Now, personally, Al Roker, the guy that did the weather, does he still do the weather for NBC? After he got it, he didn't look the same. I liked Al Roker. I liked our weatherman bigger, and he just never looked the same. I mean, I'm glad he's healthy. That's good. But, the strange thing about all of that is that I've met people that have been overweight, and they go to the doctor, they said, they're healthy as a horse. So, you never know. And maybe he is healthy. Maybe his blood pressure's low and all that good stuff's going on there. But I don't know. He's still got to the end of the year for WFAN. Francesca is retiring, long-time sports guy. Very loved in New York, but he's given up his retirement, and so they're saying that this was like a quasi audition. He's got name recognition. Governor of New Jersey, people know him. He ran for president. He'll be bombastic, And Don Imus is on, isn't he on there? Or he was on the Fan. Maybe he was kicked off there, and he's on another station there in New York. But anyway. We wish Governor Christie best of luck, but you got to think these things through a little bit clearly, unless that's what you're trying to do, be provocative, stinging a little bit, pushing the buttons. And some stations, they get away with it because that's their style, in your face kind of a deal. And, some radio stations, that's their style. They like it, and people get off on it. Different strokes for different folks. This is definitely a disaster and a tragedy. This Marine aircraft disaster, maybe you've seen it. It happened in a field in Mississippi, and the crash unfortunately killed 16 of our own folks. The FBI is on the scene, and it's joined the local and state agencies trying to figure out what in the world what in the world happened as this U.S. military plane corkscrewed out of the sky and into a Mississippi field. And this has happened yesterday. Here's a guy who is a little local to the area, and this is his reaction to the crash and what he saw.
Crackling noise. It was just something, then it was all over, but it was loud. It's just scary. It's just scary because after I seen all the black smoke, it's just something, it's horrifying.
It's a KC-130. It's a refueling tanker, and they're thinking structural damage for this to corkscrew just like that. KC-130 refueling tanker, and they're just saying simply, again, a mishap. It happened about 4 p.m. and into a soybean field about 85 miles north of Jackson, according to the Marine Corps. And the aircraft's debris scattered in a radius of about 5 miles. And there's a lot of video right now on YouTube and over the internet showing this, but it's huge plumes of smoke. The Leffery County Sheriff Ricky Banks was telling the Associated Press that officials were continuing to look for possible survivors. But, with all that smoke and all that fuel, you never know, holding out hope. But Banks earlier told the Greenwood Commonwealth 16 people were believed to be on board, but would not confirm that information to the Associated Press. I just think that they were holding out hope, hoping that somebody, made it out alive. But the Marine Corps said that it's operated that plane and has just not providing any information at this time. It's still an ongoing investigation. Alan Hamas, who's an official at the Greenwood Airport, was telling WNCN that the aircraft suffered a structural failure at 20,000 feet. That, they say, they know that's where it corkscrewed out of control. They had it on radar, and then it dropped at 20,000. Some structural damage. So it's still an investigation. I know if something imploded inside the plane. The plane, for whatever reason, fell apart. There was something wrong with it. But, man, what an intense fire. Firefighters having to fight those flames, getting them under control. And there were several high-intensity explosions, according to some of the locals there. Aerial pictures I'm looking at WLBT TV showing a skeleton of the plane burning, producing plumes of black smoke visible for miles. It's a shame, folks. Donald Trump tweeting, Marine plane crash in Mississippi, heartbreaking. Melania and I send our deepest condolences to all. He tweeted this out earlier this morning. Vice President Pence says, Karen and I are praying for the families of the Marines who lost their lives. These Marines will be in our hearts. Well, folks, we're definitely praying for the families. That is a tragedy. And these are mammoths of planes. These are just unbelievable what these refuelers can do to refuel our planes in the air. And I've probably had some of our, I'm sure, brightest on that plane. It's just a tragedy. One guy said you looked up and you saw the plane twirling around. He said it was spinning down. Jones said that the plane hit the ground behind some trees in the soybean field, and by the time he and the others reached the crash site, fires were burning too intensely to approach the wreckage. The force of the crash nearly flattened the plane, Jones said. I think, it's heavy. It's probably fueled to the gilt. Guy said beams are about waist high, and there wasn't much sticking out above the beams, he said. It was one of the worst fires you can imagine. And the Associated Press contributed to this story. Breaks your heart, folks. Breaks your heart. It just a reminder, once again, the dear price that our military pays to train, to equip, to protect all of us here in our country, and we just a moment of silence for them. And God bless them. I know some of the program directors are saying, oh, my God, there's dead air. I'll never forget when I started working at WMCA back in the mid-'80s. I'll just never forget this. I mean, 2 seconds a